God was sort of bringing all these new thoughts to us of how to do school differently, he would speak to me in the night and say things and wake me up, and I'd be like, wow.
Yes, I want to see someone's family economic situation turn around. But maybe I'm dreaming too big, but I want to see the world changed.
That revival is family. And Bill always has this statement that the light that shines the furthest shines the brightest at home.
After the 17th, 18th, 19th conversation, I was like, this is spiritual. This is crazy. I thought it was just the way I processed the world. I didn't realize this was discernment in action.
Debbie.
Hi.
Here we are. This is going to be good. I heard lots of good stuff about you. We're here in Redding, and you had a dream to do something really cool, really disruptive in the education scene. And now you're actually doing it. And you're doing really cool stuff. And I was told you need to reach out to Debbie and talk to her about what God is doing through her and her team at Tree of Life School in Anderson, which is a neighboring city here to Redding. So first of all, thank you so much for doing this show with me.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, let's go back to the beginning. You had this dream. What was the dream?
Well, I think the beginning was really back around 2003 or 2004 when I became principal at Napa Valley Language Academy. I'd been there for 15 years as a teacher and assistant principal. And then that was the same year that we started getting introduced to Bethel and Bill Johnson, and we read his book, When Heaven Invades Earth, and just listened to this cassette tape of him preaching like 25 times and kept rewinding and just going, wow, this is different. And I think through that whole process, God started showing us that he wanted to be involved in every aspect of our life. And my husband and I had both been public school teachers for many years, and always wanted to bring our faith into our work, but never really knew how that was supposed to look. And I think when we started learning more about how the presence of the Holy Spirit works and just wants to be alive in us, it opened up so many new thoughts and ideas for us.
So what was that first moment when you thought, man, it would be cool to start a school?
Yeah. So being, in education for a really long time, I was a principal of a charter school, and but when you're in a district school, you don't really get to do everything you want to do. You still have to abide by lots of district policies and
sorry to interrupt, but even when you're a pastor, you don't get to do everything that you...
Yeah, that's true. I guess there's nowhere on the planet where you get to do everything you want to do.
Yeah. I'm sorry for interrupting. Go on.
So we did start, looking for ways to just bring the presence of the Holy Spirit into our public school, and had amazing, people that God brought alongside. I had incredible assistant principals and teachers who knew the Lord, and we did some crazy things there that I got into trouble for, and just kind of learning how to be a Daniel, how to honor the government while still being a leader and staying faithful to what God was saying to my heart to do. And I, somewhere along the line, I heard a lot of teaching about the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Mm-hmm. And it really struck me our school system, how much of it we do from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Wow.
And so much has to do with, following the laws and all the, accountability systems that we have, and no child left behind, and data collection, and, just over and over and over again. And then the way we label students, with grades and critiques and punishment, when they mess up. And so a good friend of mine challenged me, I guess, one time and said, what would it look like to do school 100% from the tree of life? And I felt like I just started pressing into that, and the Lord started showing me things and revealing to me that things can look different. And at some point, we were making all these changes at our school, and I was feeling like, I know this isn't the only thing I'm ever going to do. I feel like I know God's got something else. And it was probably 10 years ago or more that I had the dream of starting a school, Spanish-English dual immersion school here in Shasta County, and being able to connect more with the international community that's here at Bethel.
Awesome.
Yeah, and to see what that could look like.
That's amazing. I would like to actually dive into this idea of a lot, maybe a lot of education is framed out from this concept of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil versus the tree of life. So there were two trees in the garden,
exactly.
The tree of the knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. And what you're saying is that each of these trees have a culture associated with them. Would you be willing to kind of dive into that a little bit to kind of show us, you did that a little bit as far as like the labeling of kids and that kind of thing, but could we kind of do maybe a deeper dive into kind of two contrasting forms of education between the tree of life versus the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? And maybe the best way to do that is just by kind of hitting on the what you guys are actually doing with this tree of life school, and then we can kind of circle back around. You can actually tell us how this whole thing got launched and breathed into being. It's fascinating.
Well, Tree of Life International Charter School is, right now it's kinder through 6th grade school, and we're going to continue adding a grade each year through 8th grade here in Anderson. And it's a charter school. I guess to hit on how we kind of started was I just started asking God just to show me what would it look like to do school from the tree of life, and what is the tree of life. And I just started making a list of all the words that God was showing me that were from the tree of life.
Awesome.
Like love and peace and promise and connection and relationship, and it goes on and on. I mean, the list is probably 3 pages long of just things that he kept showing me, destiny, and and all the while I'm thinking, this is what I want to bring to the children who come to the school. Every one of these things on this list, I want them to know this. And then those words became core values. And we wrote a mission and vision statement, and the core values, like the first core value is that every child will know that they're unique and special, and that they're loved unconditionally.
Wow.
And that every child has a unique DNA, and their DNA sings a song. And at our school, they will be allowed to sing their song. And that's really like summing up what our first core value is.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then the motto of our school is where love is our first language.
Where love is our first language.
Yeah.
And what's the mission of the school?
So we're a Spanish-English dual immersion school.
Okay. And
our mission is to partner with parents to help children develop their skills and their talents, and to their creativity, and to learn, who they're meant to be, and to do that in a setting where they get to learn about other nations and other languages and other cultures.
Amazing. All right. So you've got this vision. The Lord's speaking to you. It's kind of a dream, but you think this isn't realistic. Maybe someday. And then all of a sudden it's like, it goes from as you say in your own words, the back burner to the front burner. And I think this is actually going to be really encouraging for a lot of people that are listening or watching, in that I think a lot of people are doing what they're doing right now. They're juggling the balls of life, all their responsibilities, their family, their career, church, maybe a hobby or two. But then there's like this passion project. There's this, there's this vision, there's this dream, there's this business idea. So this was your story. Like you were just like anybody else doing all this stuff, but there was this passion project. There was kind of this God dream.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden there was this day when the Lord was like, it's time, So let's dive into that. Let's dive into that moment where the Lord was like, no, this really is me, and it's game time.
So that's exactly what happened. And I as I carried this dream for, like I said, around 10 years, I would, come and kind of investigate and look into it. I talked to other superintendents. I found out a little bit more about the education setting up here and what would be the opportunities. And I just kept feeling like there's no wind on this. There's no wind on this. It's not happening. But I carried that dream and I couldn't shake it. And when we moved up here about 4 years ago, I still had that dream, but it wasn't looking like it was going to happen. And then we had our summer conference. We have a ministry through Bethel called Kingdom Educators Network. We have a summer conference. And the night before the conference, I went up for prayer, and these two young prophetic whippersnappers, they prophesied over me. And they said, you have this dream that you've been carrying for a really long time. And you keep asking yourself, is this really from God? Or is this just something you've made up and you're not willing to let go? And God's saying, no, it is his dream. And it's been on the back burner, but he's moving it to the front burner. And it's time for you to start sharing your dream with others.
Wow.
And in a very short time, you're going to have, I don't know if they said in 1 week or in a short time, you're going to have 4 partners.
Wow.
And that's exactly what happened. The next day, we started our conference. I had the opportunity there to share this dream. And by the end of those few days, I had 4 board members come on board to say, we're with you. We want to see this happen.
That's called the fast track.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Totally.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. So now fast forward. How long has the school been going for?
So we started in August of 2017.
Okay.
So we just started our 3rd year.
That's incredible.
And right after that happened, then it was like, okay, now we've got to figure out how to actually do this.
Yeah.
And how as a charter school, you have to have a school board in a district authorize you and say, we want you in our district, or we will allow you to operate within our district.
Sure.
So it's a major, major hurdle. And I just prayed and I said, God, I want to find a superintendent who says, I love the mission and vision of this school. I know it's going to be good for kids, and I want it in my district. And that's exactly what happened. Through this course of events, I met the superintendent there in Anderson, and we had about a 10-minute meeting. And at the end of that meeting, he said, I love the mission and vision of the school. My only concern is that you're going to go somewhere else and we're going to miss out.
Wow.
And we have an empty school building. Would you like to go see it?
That's incredible. That's incredible.
So it was so affirming, and I just got goosebumps that this is really going to happen.
So here you have a mission and a vision that perhaps the school district was actually praying for, even if they weren't actually praying for you. You come and you share with them your mission and your vision. They're like, basically, we've been waiting. They give you a school.
Yes. Yes, they gave us a school building. And there's so many miracles that happened around this. It was just like daily miracles. And, one of them was we didn't have any money for, you start up a school, you don't get any funding until halfway through the school year.
Okay.
And so how do you pay teachers? How do you do all that? So we had about 5 days once we got authorized to write a grant, a charter school startup grant. And my friends helped me, and I drove down to Sacramento and delivered it like 5 minutes before the due date, the minute. And we ended up getting the grant for $375,000.
Oh my goodness, come on.
So we were able to buy everything we needed to start the school. We also, because we had that as collateral, we were able to get a loan to start to have some funds to pay teachers.
Wow.
And then God just started.
Teachers, they like to be paid.
Yeah, they like to be paid. We all do.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and then, that was the other miracle, the teachers that God brought on board. We have a couple of teachers. They all have to be bilingual, of course, to teach at Tree of Life because we're a Spanish-English immersion school.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of teachers who'd been raised in Spanish-speaking families, and I had a teacher from Bolivia, and it was just incredible. We brought instructional assistants who were from Peru and Ecuador, and returned missionaries who'd been in Spain and Mexico, and then in the last minute, I lost my first grade teacher. So my husband, who is a retired bilingual teacher, came back off the shelf and stepped in to teach first grade.
Come on, what a guy.
At our first year. And it was just amazing, the team that God put together.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, Deb, 3 years in, and how many kids are in the school now?
So we have almost 200 kids right now.
That's incredible.
And when we started, another one of the miracles was I was trying to do this budget where I'd managed the budget of my charter school, but I'd never worked in the business office. So I really had never set up a budget before. And I was just spending like all morning. I remember just going through all these figures and trying to come up with projections. And I was just like ready to throw in the towel. And I went to a cafe and I was meeting a friend for lunch. And this young man came up to me and he said, "I feel like the Lord gave me a word for you." I'm like, "Okay, let's hear it." And he said, "I just saw you like at a chalkboard and you were like feverishly writing on this chalkboard and erasing, and it was all these facts and figures, and it was like you're doing this giant math problem." And he said, "And I feel like it has to do with staffing." And he said, the Lord wants you to know that you don't have to worry about staffing. Hire everyone that you need, and He's going to provide. And so, talk about another confirmation. What happened was, we were able to have a company help us do the whole budget to kick it off. And all I needed to do was decide how many students we were going to have that first year. Not having a clue. We hadn't even announced it to the community yet.
You're just taking a shot in the dark.
Totally taking a shot in the dark. So I don't know how I came up with 92 students, but I said, we're going to have 92 students our first year. And so when we took our census, into like the beginning of October, when you do your first part of that census, guess how many students we had?
92?
Yeah.
Yes, I got it. Yeah. That's incredible. That's so amazing.
Yeah, it was like, it has been from the beginning.
You shall declare a thing and it shall be established. I mean, that's powerful.
Any goal that we've set, we've met. It's been incredible because God's brought the right people the last minute. One example, school was about to start this year, and for our upper grade students, they get a third language elective. So we wanted to offer French as one of our electives. And then also instrumental music. We needed a flute teacher. Okay. And then we lost our library teacher. Okay. And we needed a librarian. So I'm just ask the Lord, so God, I don't know what are you going to do about this? We need three more people to start off the school year. And I got an application. We have an online application. It popped up and I was reading it, and it was a teacher who was a French teacher, had been born and raised in France and worked and lived there as a missionary for many years with her husband. She played the flute since she was a child, played the flute on her worship team, and had taught library science in high school.
Come on. That's incredible.
So she's part of our team now.
That's incredible.
Wearing all those hats.
What size staff do you have?
So we have right around 30 staff. we started out that first year with about 15, and now we have 30 to 35. And
how many
full
kids?
and part-time.
How many kids can the school accommodate?
Well, right now we have 2 classes at kinder and 2 classes at first.
Okay.
And then 1 class at each grade level, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and then 5th and 6th. So we're going to be growing in that way up through 8th grade with 2 classes at each grade level.
Wow.
So we do need some additional buildings along the way. I've got the plans in mind for a sort of a middle school.
Now, do you have people coming to you saying, wow, look what you guys are doing. We want to do this too. Like, are people coming to you yet looking for the blueprint?
We've had some. Yes, I've been able to have some visitors and that have come and met with me, and from other nations too. Just kind of interested in how do you do a school that's, based on the tree of life. And I think what's really unique about it, and I want to encourage teachers and educators and school leaders that who work in the public school arena, that we are very cautious. We're very careful about obeying the law and not being a religious organization and not teaching religion. But when you catch a hold of that God supersedes all those things, and that we don't have to use religious language. We don't have to quote Bible verses. We don't have to have, group prayer that is assigned. It happens because we just invite the presence of the Holy Spirit on our campus.
That's amazing. And I want to chat with you a little bit about this idea. This is a public school. It's not Christian.
Correct.
But it is kingdom.
Correct.
Now that's gonna tweak with some people. That's gonna mess with some people. So help us wrap our minds around this idea of how something can be kingdomized without being Christianized.
That's a great question. So when you have a public school and you take public school funds, there's certain assurances you have to give, and one of those is that you're not going to teach any religion. And my heart has always been just that every child is loved, no matter where they're from and what their background is, and what their faith is, and that they're embraced and they're celebrated just for who they are. And we've always just invited parents of children who have another faith, like our Jewish parents, to come and share about how they celebrate and what does, their family celebrations look like. And
I'm sure the Jewish families probably love the name.
Yeah.
Tree of Life.
It is. And so being very open, I think, about accepting everyone and saying you have freedom to share who you are. And I think that helps children who are Christians to be able to feel safe to share who they are. And teachers don't really have the freedom to, do a lesson about Jesus, but kids have all the freedom to say, I'm a believer in Jesus, and tell their friends about Jesus and bring their Bible to school. And, we had a beautiful example of that. One little girl who started bringing her Bible to school to share it with her friend in 2nd grade. And her 2nd grade friend, was from a family who didn't go to church and didn't have that background. And, I just talked to her one day and I said, oh, what are you doing? She goes, Mrs. Wallace, I'm reading the Bible. I said, well, what are you learning? What are you learning from that? And she said, I'm learning what God thinks of me. I mean, you can't make that up.
That's incredible.
And
that's
no
amazing.
teacher had to step in and say, this is what you're learning.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's just allowing the Holy Spirit to come in. Every child that knows the Lord brings the presence of the Holy Spirit with them.
Yeah, come on
campus, and they're just radiating. And, we do a thankfulness project here coming up every year in November. And children have freedom to say, I'm thankful for Jesus. I'm thankful that he died for me.
Wow.
I'm thankful that I'm going to heaven because, Jesus died on the cross for me. I mean, children have that kind of freedom to share.
So there's not like there's not a religious pressure, but
No.
there is a religious freedom.
Exactly.
And that's one of the reasons why, the Pilgrims came to America, was to find religious freedom. And it's just kind of interesting the amount of religious freedom we've kind of lost in the recent years.
Right.
So I think that what you're modeling is such a beautiful. I mean, I think that's what our founding fathers wanted to see, is the kind of structure that you guys are providing. Now, I'm curious, what kind of feedback are you getting from the parents?
So I think that's been interesting, because I ask the parents, I do a monthly coffee with the principal.
Oh, cool. That's
so
great.
I have a chance to sit down and just ask questions and find, get feedback from them. And we were getting ready for like recruitment season to get the word out to new parents. And I said, what do you think is the most important thing that we should share that new parents need to know about our school that are considering coming here? And I got so much feedback, and it was, the whole learning another language and learning about other nations and cultures. That's so great. We love that. But the most important thing is that motto that says where love is our first language.
Wow.
And that it's really real, and that we really feel it, and that our kids really feel that they're loved here.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, we actually had an outside testimony that was true, because at the end of our first year, we had to have an outside evaluator come, because we'd got that grant funding.
Okay.
And had to do like a full analysis of the program, interviewed every staff member, interviewed student focus groups, parent focus groups, board members, community focus groups. I mean, it was like a really extensive process. Looked at our curriculum, looked at our school climate, did this full analysis to see what we were doing well and what we needed to improve on. And then he had a meeting where anybody could come and hear the results, and our board was there, and some other, other folks came to kind of hear that analysis as well, and the data review. And he said, well, the most interesting thing to me, and I've done over 200 of these types of evaluations in schools, and I've never heard this come up before, and that was the word love. He said every focus group that I talked with mentioned love. And whenever I brought up what was the climate of the school or the culture of the school, the answer was love. And he said the parents said their kids feel loved here. They know their teachers love their kids. The kids said they feel like they're loved. They feel like, they're learning how to love each other. The staff said they love the kids. And, and it was just this like outside data review that said that we are making that the main thing.
That's incredible. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
It is.
I mean, I'm trying to think about what kind of third party kind of organization or institution that you would engage with outside of a church where they would actually make you feel loved,
Right.
But I mean, I wish everybody was, I wish I could go to the grocery store.
Right.
And I mean, even Starbucks, they try so hard. They remember your name and they remember your drink.
Yeah.
But even then, you don't really feel loved by your barista, you know,
exactly.
You're like, you've just been trained well, So, and that's one of those things I don't think you can really fake it.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes people put on kind of a performance-based love, like this is,
Right.
but when you have the community, when you have these kids, when you have a third-party evaluator come in and be like, I felt love as a true part of this culture. That's not something that you can fake. That's not something you can perform. I mean, to have that in your culture, that's incredible.
Right. Yeah. It is like a bold mission statement. You know? And especially in public education, you don't see that as a core value very often. And
you should consult with churches.
Yeah, right. Right. So hopefully that's changing.
I wanted to dive into some of the stuff because education is always such a relevant topic. I mean, it's such a hot topic, especially when it comes to even the political seasons that are coming up. Of course, the Bush campaign, of course, really used education as a major part of George W.'s platform, and that's where the No Child Left Behind kind of came from. When he was in power, and we're coming into it. I don't think President Trump necessarily. I don't think education is a major part of his platform. I don't know.
Well, he favors charter schools, and Betsy DeVos is the head of schools of education and has a support for charter schools.
Okay, so that's actually been helpful then, having President Trump in office as far as funding for charter.
Not so much in California, but
okay.
We're in a really kind of a dark place right now in California with attacks on charter schools, and it's really being brought by the unions and the fear of not having enough funding to pay all the teachers in all the schools. And, it's fear-based, and there's a lot of legislation. Like, I just heard a figure over 200 pieces of legislation that are trying to limit charter schools.
Really?
And one big one just passed that put some limitations on charter schools, and which is not all bad. I mean, we need to have accountability to make sure that students are learning and that it's a positive environment. But it just feels like there's a lot of attacks on having that freedom. The thing that makes a charter school unique is you're able to have your own mission and vision statement. You're able to make decisions based on what your mission is for your students. And you're able to use the funding to provide for the students in the way that is going to meet the goals of your charter. So districts are very limited. They have all the state policies and things that they have to abide by, and it just limits freedom.
Okay.
Yeah. So. But that being said, I do want to give hope to people, and I think that the biggest way that we do impact education is not through politics.
Yeah, sure.
That it's through people and relationships, and whether you're a parent or a teacher or whatever role you have a student, you can impact public education by bringing who you are into that environment.
Awesome. And
bringing love into that environment. And that's what is really transformational. And that's what transforms classrooms and school culture and, changes lives.
Now, I understand there's a lot of legislation going through right now in California in regards to what you're allowed to talk about and what you're able to define when it comes to marriage and the role of men and women, that kind of thing. Does that impact charter schools? Do you guys have to be kind of careful when it comes to defining marriage and defining rules and that sort of thing? Or is there freedom to kind of approach that, teacher to teacher or a philosophy for the school? How do you guys kind of handle that?
So that's kind of a both and, because we are required by law to teach all the components of the Healthy Youth Act, which is a new legislation in California that, talks about gender education, and
you have to go through all 170 gender classifications.
I don't think there's 170, but there's a lot.
How many are there now?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but there are a number. Yeah,
sure,
more than two for sure. Like a page full or
Lots.
two. Yeah. So we are required at certain grade levels to provide this curriculum or this instruction. Not a specific curriculum though. So and I think that, involving parents in the selection of what curriculum you do use or how you do involve parents in the instruction is a really important piece that helps to make.
And the state sort of has like a criteria of what has to be satisfied in meeting up with those objectives as far as what that bill required. Is that right? Yes,
there's an act, the Healthy Youth Act, and it specifies what needs to be taught and at what grade levels once in middle school and once in high school. And it's, comprehensive sex ed.
I think the name is interesting. The Healthy Youth
Right.
Act. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting name.
Yeah. Well, it does involve everything from, diseases and, everything related to healthy sexual relations and but also relationship. And it's not, and I see it like, yes, this is important things for students to be taught, but I like to involve families in that as well.
Would private schools have to comply with that act as well? Like, is it okay? So private schools can kind of
private schools don't receive public funding. So they're not bound by any of the public education laws. Okay.
Now, when it comes to, there's a lot of new learning methods and a lot of new kinds of charters, a lot of just interesting things that are taking place right now when it comes to education. I understand that the one very popular kind of learning method is almost like experience-based learning. And I don't know the official name of this method versus kind of the traditional American way of sitting at your desk and listening to your teacher kind of instruct. And so at your school, are you guys experimenting with some new forms of education that are more kind of hands-on and problem solving, that kind of thing?
Yes, I think we are. We're kind of once again like both and. We have some traditional kinds of things with classroom learning, but we also take the learning outside of the classroom whenever possible. We have a school garden, and we get our kids out there doing science, learning about nutrition, and we are have kind of an inquiry-based approach where we want students to ask the questions that they want to learn about. And one of the focuses of our school is the international curriculum, and this is another thing that back in that time when God was sort of bringing all these new thoughts to us of how to do school differently, he would speak to me in the night and say things and wake me up, and I'd be like, wow, what does that mean? How am I supposed to do that? And one of those things was, I heard very clearly, he said, I want you to give the children the keys to the nations.
Wow.
And that was something I'm still thinking about. I'm still, asking God about. But we began through that to, back in my former school, to sponsor an orphanage in Goma, Congo. And so for 10 years, we sponsored this orphanage, and we did all kinds of projects. And we're able to, bring through the children doing music concerts. We called them benefit concerts, and we raised money at those concerts, and we had different projects each year. We had connections over the years with people who actually went and visited the orphanage, and our French class made, because they speak French, they teach French in Goma, they made French alphabet books. And one of friends of our school worked for USAID, and she was able to fly those books into the orphanage.
Wow, that's awesome.
And a couple years later, another friend from Napa went and visited the orphanage through another connection. And the children said, do you want to see our books? And in this one little shelf, there were the French books that our kids had made a couple years before. And they were their only books. And so I think we've brought that to Tree of Life. And each year our kids are doing benefit concerts. And we focused our first year on an orphanage in Nigeria and our second year on a project in India. And our kids are really the ones taking the lead. Like, they're learning. Children are so compassionate, and as soon as they hear about a need, they want to meet it.
That's awesome.
They'll want to do anything they can, and so our kids are learning through these projects, but also by inviting internationals who are here in Redding to come and visit our school and share about their country. So we do International Fridays,
Okay.
Where they come and visit, and kids get to ask questions, and they share about what's happening in their country. And
that's great.
And so
get to eat some food from some other countries. Maybe?
Yeah, we do an international festival in the spring, and the kids
any excuse to eat Chinese food. That's what I always say, right? or Indian, but
yeah. So we've made a really awesome connection here with the Indian community in Redding, and they've had us come to their festivals, and our kids will dance or sing.
Great.
And there's a Japanese festival that just started 2 years ago, and our kids have been part of that, and we might even be hosting it this year at our school. So it's making these connections for our kids. They really feel like they're part of a much bigger global community.
Now, when it comes to switching gears here, when it comes to homework, so yeah. I got a third grader and I got a fifth grader, and we did public school for 2 years, and we're in private school now, and then we're homeschooling our little kindergartner. Okay. We aren't. Grammy is. Yeah, Grammy does a good job at that.
Grammys are awesome for that.
But I know that the school that we're at now, which we love, but there is a lot of homework, and so what I'm wondering is, with your school, does the school have a philosophy regarding homework, or is that more of up to the teacher, depending on the teacher's philosophy? And what's your own personal philosophy for homework? Do you feel like you're at school all day working hard, and when you get home you should have to work, learn more. Go even deeper once you get home,
crack the whip,
yeah. So
well, since I got
Tree of Life, what does that look like, and then kind of your own kind of philosophy?
Yeah. So since I got to start the school, our school philosophy is my own philosophy.
Okay.
So what research shows about homework is that the only kind of homework that really shows an increase in student achievement or helps students be better learners is
reading
and writing, and that's about it.
Really?
So
not even with arithmetic.
No, not unless the student, needs extra practice. But a lot of the things that we send home is a lot of busy work. A lot of the things that kids do is a lot of busy work, and the we have a school-wide initiative called California Reads.
Okay.
And so we send books home with our kids every week, and we want them to kind of establish a reading routine at home. So they're going to do something in those hours.
Okay.
They're probably going to get on the TV or the video games or whatever.
Sure.
And we encourage parents to establish a reading routine in their home. Sit down with mom and dad, read with them, read to them. Have mom and dad read to you.
Sure.
And then we have a little recording sheet where we have students record something in writing from what they read, respond to what they read. In kindergarten, maybe they just draw a picture and maybe start to label their picture, and by the end they're writing a sentence or two. And at each grade level, it's a little more complex. They might be looking at who are the characters, who's your favorite character, what would be a different ending that you might write if you were the author, so we're trying to build critical thinking.
There's going to be some homework.
There's
going to be some work to do at home.
There's something there, but we don't want to make it excessive. I mean, it's about 30 minutes to 40 minutes for the upper grades.
Sure.
And less for the younger grades. And if a student is struggling with math, we would work with the parent and say, hey, we want you to practice this at home.
And if the parent's struggling with math,
we say, stay in our after-school program and we'll help the kids.
I'm so thankful for my bride, Andrea. I don't know where I'd be. I would just never be able to be a single parent. You know what I'm saying?
No, it is.
Thank you,
it is tricky. I don't really. One of my teachers sent me an exam that the student had done, and it was a fourth grader who was a native English speaker who's actually grown up in South Africa, and he is doing his math, fourth grade math, Common Core fourth grade math, all in Spanish. Yeah. And she said, I'm so proud of him, and look at what he's done, and look at how, and this is really hard math, like word problems, all in Spanish, and writing out,
that's amazing.
Making a diagram, and, coming up with solutions, and describing your thinking throughout the whole process. And I looked at that today and I was like, that is amazing. I could not answer that question.
Yeah.
That is too hard for me.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome. That's so cool.
They're getting it. So yeah. And I think what is really different about our school too is that we're constantly throwing new things at our kids to learn. We have an amazing world language teacher, Noelle Williams, and she is teaching even our kindergartners how to write music.
Wow.
How to write rhythms, and they play each other's songs on the drums, and they're learning songs in many languages, and they perform, at our concerts, and anything we throw at our kids, they learn it. They're like excited about everything.
That's awesome.
So,
that's great.
Yeah, and it all, comes together, and then of course, school has to be a fun place where there's lots of celebration. Really? Yeah. Okay. All right. You don't want to come to school if it's not going to be fun. So we build fun into everything, and
that's awesome.
Every Friday we have a celebration assembly at the end of the day, and we invite parents to come, and every teacher honors 2 of their kids who've just really stood out that week for whatever reason. They showed courage, or they, made improvement in math, or whatever it was that they did. They were very creative, or they asked great questions, or, celebrating them for whatever. And we always do a video of the week, like a slideshow. Okay. Because everybody takes photos during the week, and then our tech guy puts them all into an amazing slideshow, and that's how we end our Fridays.
That's great. To really celebrate. I think celebration is very important. That would be a very important part of your culture, just as far as feeling loved. Yes. Like if you feel celebrated, then most likely, because you don't celebrate people that you don't love. Yeah, exactly. Right? And so I think that's probably a pretty cool... I can see how those two values, celebration and love, would really work together. Yes. And also kids, when they're celebrated, I mean, for a kid to feel honored, that's such a big deal. Because a lot of times kids feel dissed or disrespected or dishonored because they're not measuring up. Yeah. And so to actually be celebrated at school that's a pretty cool deal. I wanted to ask you, you talked about, parents' involvement is especially important when your kids are in public school. And I actually kind of thought we could kind of hit on this as we kind of land here. But for parents that are listening and their kids are in public school, what can parents do to really partner with their children in order to maybe supplement what's happening at school, or to really support what's happening at school? How important, I guess, it's when it just comes to education, our children's education, public or private, how important is the involvement of parents, both mom and dad, in the development and the cognitive development of our children?
I think it is so important, and it's even as simple, like if you work full time and you can never come to school, just asking your kids, about school and being interested and knowing what's happening and reading those newsletters that come home in the backpack, checking the backpack. And we have a communication system called Parent Square. And I know we bombard parents with so many messages, but that's how they stay informed, and that's how they can ask their kids or tell them, hey, tomorrow you guys are going to have a special visitors coming, the firemen are coming. This is going to be so exciting. So I think that is really important, just to know what's going on. And then I think for parents who want to bring a positive influence into a public school, there's like do's and don'ts. And the really, the big don't is, don't come in demanding your way. Okay. Like, this is happening and I want it to be like this and la la la, and I'm coming in with my, all my guns loaded, and I'm going to be more powerful than you, teacher, and I'm going to let you have it full blast, because that's like the way to like create this huge separation between you and the teacher. Okay.
So parents, just be cool.
Be cool. Be cool. And if you want to influence and you feel like, wow, I'm not really sure. Don't be a jerk. I'm not really sure what's going on in the classroom. I'd like to, influence for the positive, or I feel like my teacher's maybe too negative with my kid. Just come in with love.
That's good.
Come in with, what can I do to help support you? When that teacher sends that list of things that she needs in the classroom, go that extra mile and buy those, Sharpie markers and stuff that she asked for, and then deliver them and go, is there anything else I can do? I just want to be a help to you.
That's good. So don't just be an ally or an advocate for your own child.
Exactly.
But really be an advocate for the teacher of your child.
Yeah.
Really see the importance of the unity there between the teacher and your child.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
And this is true in like any avenue of life, in any way you work, whether it's in business or school or church or anywhere, is whoever you criticize, you will not be able to influence. But whoever you honor, you have a much greater potential to be able to influence. Yeah,
that's really good.
And so by coming in honor and, knowing that your teacher loves mochas from Starbucks, drop off that special mocha once in a while with a little note. I just want to tell you, you're doing a great job. You're going to be able to forge a relationship with that teacher that, who knows, maybe they don't know that they're valued and worthy of being loved unconditionally.
Absolutely.
Maybe they're, bringing their brokenness into the classroom.
Wow.
Because they haven't been told or shown that they're truly loved and lovable.
Wow, that's good.
And so Christian parents can
and it's
have
a good
huge
excuse just to
influence.
get yourself a mocha,
Yeah,
right? And
right.
so like, hey, I'm gonna get the teacher a mocha, I'm gonna get myself a mocha, the teacher's gonna know they're loved, I'm showing a little self-love here.
Exactly.
It's a win-win.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I just think it's so easy sometimes to make the wrong person the enemy, know.
Yeah.
And sometimes we take stuff out on other people, and sometimes it's easy to do that with a teacher or a police officer.
Yeah, for sure.
So a pastor.
So true.
Deb, I think your story is just so amazing and so inspiring. And I hope that people that hear this story, that it just builds faith. The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy.
Yes.
And so to hear this kind of story where you had a dream, it was something that you were like Mary held these things in her heart, know, and you just kind of hid this in your heart. And then one day these kids prophesied over you, and it was like the secrets of your heart were revealed. It was like, now it was public.
Exactly.
And they're like, now it's time.
Right.
And would you be willing just to pray, just in closing, and would you be willing just to pray for people where they've been waiting for the green light, and it's like they felt like they've been sitting at a red light for a long, and they've been waiting for the green light? Would you be willing to pray for people that have been holding something in their heart, maybe they've never shared it with anybody, and just kind of release kind of just a prayer of expectation of faith for those listening?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Deb. That'd be great.
All right. Oh, Lord, thank you so much. Thank you, God, that you want to partner with us in our dreams, that you choose to partner with us, Lord. And I thank you for those dreamers out there that are carrying that mission in their heart that they just want to see happen, God. And I just pray that you would move those dreams from that back burner to the front burner and do the thing that you want to do through them. God, I thank you that there's a waiting time. I thank you that you are all about everyone and everything, and that if we learn to wait on you, that you're going to put all the pieces together, and it's going to be so much easier when we finally jump in, when you say now's the time to jump. So God, I just speak hope over every dreamer who's carrying that. Don't give up on your dreams, and that God, you have a perfect timing, and you want to use us, and we get to partner with you to transform lives. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, amen. And everybody watching, go into the show notes, because we're going to put the link for Tree of Life School where you can learn more about what they're doing at this school. So please go and click the link, check it out. Also, make sure that you share this episode on Facebook and Twitter. Let's tell this story. Let's tell this story. Let's get this story out there, because it's going to inspire other people just to begin to run with God's desire to see his kingdom come. Like that was the prayer of Jesus, see his kingdom come, his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And that's what you're doing. Thank you so much for creating time in your busy schedule to make this happen. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Darren. I've had a great time.
Awesome.